A pleasure to meet all at last, and here we are at it once again with HJN Season 5. Yeah, this is a season that I had just started yesterday, and I'm actually going to be quite happy to have many of the subjects in question. One in particular that I have will be about motorcycles, something I could have touched up on a while ago, but it was more than necessary for me to save it up. A lot of the best subjects, I feel like, should be saved for last. Considering the fact that the longevity of this series has carried on to 6, going on 7 years, I mean, 2019 to 2025 is already a pretty good amount of time spent with just one series on YouTube. But in any case, number 2664 will focus on motorcycles. So, let's get started. Motorcycles, as you probably know by now, are two-wheel, though sometimes that motorcycles can be equipped with more than 2 wheels. They are small land vehicles, much smaller and often cheaper than the likes of most cars, trucks, pickups, etc. Many land vehicles out there, apart from cars, trucks, and pickups, have indefinitely been made as a means to become more cheaper and sometimes even more reliable, better handling, better mileage, and also a lot less headaches when it comes to maintenance. Motorcycles have been well known for the likes of not only being a lot cheaper than most cars and other such land vehicles, but they also tend to have some downs. You see, the ups might be that they're a lot smaller in size, they can be more nimble, you could squeeze in between lanes on the interstate should there be a traffic jam. Not that you should ever do such a thing like that. What if somebody wanted to get out of their car? You'd be ramming right through their door and probably chopping off an arm or something. They're also a lot cheaper, and they can sometimes be a lot easier to fix up maintenance-wise, depending on what goes on. But the main downsides that we have here is that, for one thing, they are rather exposed. There's no outside protection, unlike with cars, pickups, and etc., in which there's often a frame, as well as doors, paneling, frameworks, pillars, a rooftop, and etc. Anything that would make up a normal vehicle. With motorcycles, you have no such thing out there. It's just a saddle in which to lie down on, handles to hold on to, and often an accelerator and brake. It's mostly that simple layout. But depending on what model you get, as there are many companies that specifically specialize in motorcycles, one of the oldest dates back to the early 1900s, and is the one and only Harley Davidson. Much of their development, though, has taken place throughout the end of the 19th century, but throughout the 20th century they practically revolutionized the way that motorcycles, especially in the United States, have changed the way that people have rode cities, highways, interstates, or even your own driveway, should it be necessary. The main thing, though, is that with motorcycles, apart from them being wide open and whatnot, they not only are exposed to a lot of different problems out there, such as getting bugs in your face or getting moisture and other such stuff, that can easily be blocked or even filtered out with cars and air conditioning and modern ventilation procedures, but there's also the likes of accidents. Yes, like any other land vehicle, motorcycles are especially susceptible to accidents, but unlike with the car, in which that safety procedures, including the likes of having shielding all around you for protection, airbags, seat belts that can automatically lock in the case of a difference in pressure, as well as an assortment of other safety features made to increase safety by today's standards, motorcycles have none of that stuff. Even worse, sometimes when a person slams into something, the collision can actually send the driver flying. Sometimes they can also carry passengers. They end up flying too, right out of the motorcycle into the air. Often, it can be a deadly fall, depending on what the speed is like and the velocity exerted. Of course, the inertia and momentum will be catapulting your body into the air from the impact. After all, you'll move at a relative similar speed to that of the motorcycle upon impact. But because you're not being held down by anything, you're of course free to fly like a rag doll. Needless to say, like many accidents that we've known that were motorcycle related over the years, it will not end well for you. But one big thing that they have put together especially in a legal matter, is that they require helmets. Though some might not always enforce this rule, helmets are indeed necessary, much like having a bicycle. With motorcycles, it's a different story. But it does carry over the same principle, because like a bicycle, you're sitting on a paddle, and while it might not have pedals, it'll have handlebars that allow for the motorcycle to move, whether forward or backwards, and of course to have some brakes whenever necessary. So while motorcycles can be a lot simpler in comparison to the massive money pits that may be cars or pickups, anything of the sorts, motorcycles have a lot of downsides. You could say it's riskier territory. So either spend a lot of money to have a lot of safety, or spend very little money and sacrifice safety. Pick your poison. Either way you look at it though, it's still nice that motorcycles at least show us that there is hope to have cheaper methods of transportation should they become too expensive to own at some point. Because the car could probably run at the end of the road, knowing how expensive many of them have gotten nowadays, especially brand new ones, in which they can be as high as $150,000. And we're talking daily drivers here, not exactly anything sporty or exotic or super. No man, we're talking mostly about daily drivers. Mazdas, Cadillacs, Toyotas, etc. And it's insane. In any case though, let's just hope that motorcycles and cars can actually come together and create something that can be cheaper, yet safer. A way to combine both worlds into one. If anybody can come up with that, I'd probably buy it in a heartbeat. Until then though, it is what it is. I'm more than glad that I settled a lot of money just to have much more safety on the highway and anywhere else that I go. That's pretty much it for this episode of HJN, and I will be back tomorrow with, of course, another segment. So make sure to like, subscribe, comment, follow me wherever you can find me, and stay on the Hollywood side for more